a sentiment I see from people that work in the space that are not satisfied with things, where they're just like, whatever, man, it doesn't matter. It's all
Right.
It's like a
The
losing
apathy.
fight, whatever.
The will breaks a little bit.
Totally.
Right,
And
right.
like me personally, I'm not going out like that, dude. Like there's always
Yeah.
gonna be
Respect.
real heads that are down to talk about real stuff, and it's just a matter of surrounding yourself with them.
So you just wanted to lighten up the load a little bit. I think that's real. I really appreciate you just even for that reason alone.
Hugely.
Is something that me and D-Day talk about like all the time
Mhm.
about like what the audience wants to see opposed to what they need to see. It's been negative stories and been burnout stories, which it is, but it's also good to see that like you can share something that's the positive side because that still does exist too. Like
Yeah.
it's like D-Day is a whole positive experience right now, and I'm proud of him. Like,
Yeah, totally.
It's great.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like for every 100 people that I feel like talking to have lost themselves in this space, I just want folks to see that even if it's just one person that feels
Yeah.
like they found themselves.
Exactly.
No,
In this space.
that's quote right
Right.
there, man.
There is light at the end of the tunnel.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's part of the like gambit. I don't necessarily think that people can beat up on themselves for like what camp they find themselves in. Like one of the straws for me that kind of broke my back in retail is like I had a homie I was working with, and he showed me the sales numbers on the back end. He sold $1 million worth of product by himself that year
Holy
and got a 50-cent raise.
Oh,
Wow.
And it broke my heart, man. It broke my heart.
that hurts.
I mean, can you imagine if he had a 0.5% commission on that?
Right? Oh my
yeah,
god.
he's set. He's still set, pretty much. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
It's pretty good. Shout out to every fucking buddy working in the industry or who has worked in the industry right now, because the game's fucked up, but we still choose to do it, and
Yeah.
we still try to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yep.
We still choose to keep the energy.
Yep.
Grateful for Sam to be able
Yeah.
to come in and bring some actually positive news, because like we want to keep it even balance.
Sure.
Because this is a platform. Like Behind the
Yeah.
Bud isn't like a directive. It's not an agenda. Specifically, not a fucking agenda.
Yeah, it's
It's-
definitely not an agenda. That's for
it's-
sure.
Exactly.
For people like you, dude, I'm so happy to like actually heard it from you.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? To just have you guys want to come on. So we encourage people like Sam to keep getting on here.
I feel like when we met, right?
Yep.
You were in that sort of like more negative space about it, right? And
That was, I can tell you hands down, that was the worst job I worked in the industry. The field marketing stuff, man.
Yeah.
Doing that. I met some great people doing that job. Like I still am cool with both of my bosses there. I talk to them on the regular. But just the actual day to day of that job was pretty draining. It
oh
was-
my god. So tell us like what your day was like doing that.
So
What did it entail?
inherently, right, like the structure of the gig, if you're offering third-party marketing services to people,
Yeah.
as it like an alternative to them having their own marketing people, anyone that can pay to afford that service is going to be a larger multi-state operator for the most part.
Is that who you mostly worked for?
Yeah, so
as
it's like a
third
lot of the
party?
brands in our portfolio I really did not personally align with, which is fine. I mean, working
Sure.
retail, I'm sure you have to sell all sorts of stuff all day you don't personally align with.
Yeah.
But just to me, I mean, that kind of stuff gets to me over time.
Yeah.
I don't like lying to people. I'm not a
Mhm.
salesman, even in my current job. It's like I'm not looking to twist anybody's arm. If you smoke my weed when I send you samples and you don't like it, man, you're entitled to your opinion.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm not going to twist your arm for a sale because
Yeah.
there's just not really a lot there for either of us.
yeah.
It just got to me, and that's what led me to an extended job search, trying to find some gig where I felt like my ethos personally kind of aligned with the owners of the company.
Is that something that's contractual? Like when you work for like the marketing for these companies that
Mm.
call you up and
Yeah, so you're 1099 contractor, so it's all
like a subcontract.
exactly, yeah.
Oh, so you weren't technically their employee.
No,
you
I
were-
was not. It was
Wow.
all contract based.
They were Ubering your shit.
Exactly. It was if you're
That's
familiar
a
with
good
any
one,
sort of
actually.
ride
That's
share
fucked.
platform or like food delivery platform, it was kind of run like that, man. You check into the gig, you know, you're there, you check out of the gig.
Mm.
But a lot of it was just so asinine, dude. Like the stuff they'd have me set up. So I'd love to talk about sort of how I run my pop-ups these
Yeah.
days in comparison.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Um,
I'd love to hear the sort of comparison between the two.
So my experience with pop-ups before how I'm doing them these days was sort of just like a lot of swag and sort of like tchotchkes, stickers, lighters, things
Sure.
of that nature. Nothing that really showcases your product, explains what you're getting as a
Mhm.
consumer, or explains, you know, why I should go with this company's product versus, you know, the stuff I'm used to buying.
Yeah.
A lot of it was just like, it was just kind of, I don't want to say meaningless, because I mean, I understand that the message was to put a positive face out there and
Mhm.
have brand engagement. You know, sometimes we're trying to get them to sign up for newsletters or what have you, but it just didn't feel like there was really a purpose involved. Whereas when I'm doing pop-ups with High Ledges, we literally have a document that like shows where we source our cuts from. So a little blurb about the breeders, maybe the genetics, if there's like an interesting story about the strain or what have you. And then on the flip side of that, we kind of dive into living soil and, why growing in sort of like a controlled, self-maintaining microbiome like this is conducive to more terpene production, perhaps different terpene production than you might get. Same thing with, kind of alternative cannabinoids.
Yeah.
Because like honestly, with all the sort of testing changes and maybe some issues going on with testing, like people will see our COAs and they're like, all right, but is this real, or are you dusting a little keef on there? So part of my spiel at the pop-ups is sort of transparency wise. Like I lead with the flower and the COA, and then I kind of dive into why these numbers look the way they do. If you're sourcing top of the line genetics, whether it's your own in-house selections or you're grabbing breeders cuts of some primo gear, and you're growing it in a dialed in environment, whether that be, a 10th cycle in a living soil bed. I mean, I grow pretty decent herb, just cocoa, LEDs, salts.
Sure.
Like you can grow fire however you want as long as it's dialed. If you're putting good genetics in a happy environment, your tests are going to be pretty high.
I mean, when it comes to like the THC number, right?
Yeah.
I think it's also like, to be fair, right? When we step out of what we know, it's the only thing that a lot of consumers know.
Sure.
What do you do when we know all about the science of it? But what do you also do when it's like the major equation of how you're selling?
Right.
I personally, I challenge any person that buys High Ledges flower, like grab a pre-roll of our GMO. It's a super high tester. GMO in general is always a pretty high tester.
Sure.
We've had batches that have tested, 40% TAC, whatever. Grab a gelato, usually pretty low tester for us. We've had batches that are like 17% TAC. Smoke them both. You will get equally as stoned. That's what we do all day. We can't tell the difference. Like, I don't know, man. I feel like it just, with having all that information available, there needs to be sort of, I don't know if you guys are sports guys, but like people who read too much into advanced analytics and can't just like look at a player and be like, he looks like he knows what he's doing out there versus he looks like he's forcing it a little bit.
Right.
It's kind of just like the old eye test. Like if he's nice, he's nice. If it smokes, it smokes. Like, I don't know, man.
Everybody has their nuance, but like, I get it. In all of my experience of being a bud tender, every fucking patient that was their thing.
Oh yeah, I mean they'll
explain anything you can be like, yo, this shit has lasers on it. It can fucking shoot out a thief, and they'll still be like, what's it testing?
If I had a dollar for every single time I had somebody come in and just go, just see your highest tacking flower, please.
I mean, if it tested at 50% TAC, dude, they smoke dog shit. I swear, like on everything. Right. I mean, so like when I started on retail working at a medical grow, they kind of did their pricing by TAC. Yeah. So you would have stuff that literally came off the same plant that would be like in the smalls and would be at a deal versus, this is 30% TAC and it's $60 an eighth for a medical patient. I'd like to think that I impressed High Ledges during our interview because, I have the job. But job interviews are a two-way street, man. It's like they impressed me far more than I could have possibly impressed them. The conversation just kind of began, about stuff sort of relevant to the position. And it quickly just went off the rails into just us talking shop about the state of the industry for the better part of 45 minutes.
No kidding.
Yeah, man. It was something that I had not been around. I kind of had worked enough gigs in the industry to know what I was looking to avoid.
Right.
And I didn't see any of those red flags. And as I kind of, got signed on, got more established, like I view, my boss, he absolutely is like just as much of a mentor to me as he is a boss. As you know, that's certainly not par for the course in this industry to be treated like